Welcome to the seventh episode of Politics with me, Alex Yankowski, and my friend Bo joining us today.
What's going on, guys?
Today, after the events that happened on January the 3rd, with the assassination uh, or the just the killing of Major General Qasem Soleimani in Iraq, we're going to be doing an Iran special. Bo, are you happy about that?
So, yay. Who doesn't love teetering on the edge of world conflict? Um, the U.S. and Iran have had a rocky history the last couple decades, beginning in 1953 with Operation Ajax, which was a U.S. British combined operation to overthrow the democratically elected government of Iran to set up the Shah, who would be overthrown in 1979 during the Iranian Revolution, which would lead to the U.S. embassy hostage crisis. Since then, the U.S. and Iran have engaged in several short wars and conflicts, like when the United States shot down an Iran air flight, killing 290 people, which the U.S. mistaked the Airbus A300 for a fighter jet. Since then, tensions slightly eased in 2015 with the signing of the Iran nuclear deal under President Obama. However, tensions have again spiked under the Trump administration, with tensions in the Gulf of Oman in 2019 when several oil tankers were attacked, as well as again in 2020 with the U.S. drone strike against the highest Iranian general on January 3rd in Baghdad, Iraq, while he was visiting some proxies Iran maintains there. Since then, Iran has withdrawn from its nuclear deal and which was keeping Iran from having a nuclear weapon as of now. Now they have pulled out from that deal, and the production of a nuclear weapon will most likely start very soon unless a new deal is struck. So there's been a lot of uncertainty these last couple weeks, last couple days. People have been, when this news broke, everyone was like, "Oh, we're going to be at war. We're going to be at war." But right now we have a lot of uncertainty. So now we're going to kind of talk about what this means for the United States and Iran and what the future might hold, and kind of go from there. So
Yeah, I personally think that this whole escalation started when Trump left the Iran, what's called the JCPOA or the Iran nuclear deal, in 2018, and ever since then, he's just been there's been an increased amount of sanctions on Iran, trying to destroy their economy, with without any there wasn't really a push from any one side to remove themselves from the deal. We have people even from the cabinet of Donald Trump's own cabinet of saying, yes, we didn't agree with the deal when we signed it in 2015, but like we need to use this deal on the basis of which we can get something better rather than just leave it without any backup. Trump just left the deal without anything to support uh, support the rest of the world and the rest of the members of the JCPOA of stopping Iran from making nuclear weapons. And so now it's just been an increasing amount of amount of tensions. There was a spike in the summer this year uh, with Iran taking out some Saudi oil fields, and then with some retaliation, Iran taking over some of the oil tankers and such, and it's been like an escalation of everything, and now with Trump just calling for the death of basically the person who's like number two in Iran, um, it's very much uncertain what's going to happen next. Is there going to be a further escalation? Because Iran promised that they're going to escalate further, but that Trump said that they've got 52 different sites which they could attack, that they would be willing to attack, be it cultural, be it military. And that's something that really struck me when he said that he would be fine with attacking cultural sites, even though that would be a war crime. It just makes Iran and like people and some of their some of the people they support, such as the Hezbollah, who've come out and said, no, our counterstrikes are going to be only based on U.S. military institutions, and we're not going to touch civilians. So it's kind of you have this kind of built up morality of the United States and having strong morals, and then you have seen that some of the enemies of the United States that we consider people who have firstly they're different but fight for a different value set to our own. We see them coming out with more of a moral view than our president.
Yeah, it's just definitely a lot to take in here. As in response to some of these, Iraq, their parliament voted today or yesterday to expel U.S. troops from Iraq. So now we've lost an ally in the region. We have people in the United States, panicking and saying, "Oh, is World War III going to happen? Are we going to get drafted?" But most likely not. Let's I know that's a very knee jerk reaction, but let's be realistic here. A U.S.-Iran conflict most likely does not spread into World War like we've seen in the 1940s and the 19 teens. However, a war with Iran would not be a simple, easy task. I mean, the United States has been at war for 20 straight years in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Western Africa, and no end in sight. And another front, another war with a country that's much stronger than any of those countries would definitely prove disastrous. Some experts are reporting the United States would need 1.6 million troops to fully conquer Iran, which is much larger than the active U.S. forces right now. They're saying that Iran could start wars on 2-3 continents with their proxies in Asia and the Middle East and in Africa. So right now we have a lot of up in the air. There's a lot of we're really waiting to see if Iran will strike back, which I think once we see what Iran does, that'll show the next direction the United States will take. If Iran decides to do like a cyber attack on our banks like they did in 2015, I believe, then we might not be at war. If Iran decides to attack U.S. bases in Iraq or Afghanistan, then we might be at war. It really is, honestly, the ball is in the court of Iran at this point. We made a huge escalation with, like Alex said earlier, it's practically an assassination of another country's top officials. Right now, we've definitely escalated, and it's been an uncharacteristic move from the United States by airstriking a country's number two. We basically attacked Iran's vice president, and now we're claiming that they were warmongering. I don't like the tenacity we showed in that attack. I think that was a poor effort, a poor method of taking out Iran's general. Right now, tensions are swirling, tensions are rising, people are confused, and right now it's really up to Iran to see how they're going to act. So I'm interested to see what they decide to do next.
Yeah, you mentioned that that Iraq voted to remove the U.S. troops and from Iraq, but you had a release that apparently that the U.S. The Department of Defense is going to withdraw troops, but it was apparently sent out by mistake, and it was there was General Miley told reporters that the letter was a draft, it was a mistake, it was unsigned, it should not have been released, and that they haven't decided if they're going to move out of Iraq. It was very much a weird move because you had Donald Trump saying before that that we're not going to leave Iraq. We want to stop, we're going to sanction Iraq, and we're not going to leave. That's just that's his stance, and that's kind of the stance of the government. And you kind of see if Trump trying to strong arm Iraq, but at this point he's just lost so much ground and so much like privileges that he was granted when he came first and came into office. It's you know it's very very much disappointed, but you see that the government's decision to even do the strike was also quite questionable. So the reason why the reason why the reason why the strike was conducted was because there was apparent intelligence that said that there was going to be a military strike by the proxies that Soleimani was not officially but unofficially in charge of around three continents that we both mentioned previously, and that there was going to be a strike on American troops, and so this strike would stop that from happening, which has got big questions with it in itself because these proxies are massive bureaucratic organizations, and taking out the leader won't stop somebody else coming in like they just did, someone who's currently making a speech in Soleimani's funeral right now, and this strike might even be stronger than it was previously expected because they have a martyr who they can follow, and they can say, look, you killed our leader, we are going to strike back very hard. So by reasoning that the troops were going to be under attack and that this is the only action that we could take, you put the troops and like more in danger than they were previously.
Yeah,
so
right.
It kind of
since the
strike puts a question mark of why they even did it.
Since this strike has occurred, the United States has been deploying thousands of troops to the Middle East. There are reports from Camp Pendleton in California that Marines were rushed to Iraq and Kuwait. They were given 5 hours notice to tell their families where they were told to board planes and fly to then Guam and then Kuwait. So we've had flash deployments before in the United States, but 5 hours is supposedly like the shortest time they've ever been given. That shows to me that they really think that a threat could be there. We have a lot of people being redirected, a lot of people being put in harm's way because of a decision that wasn't fully thought out. Attacking someone's essentially vice president, even though Iran's government structure is a little different. That's kind of how it ended up. That's how it stacks up. Is definitely it should be a calculated move, and it should be one that should not be taken lightly. And taking that action without being prepared for its consequences is troubling to me, especially since you have to flash deploy Marines from Camp Pendleton. I'm perplexed by this move. The Iran tensions had seemed to simmer down a bit since 2019 with the oil tankers. We had seemed to be kind of going back to the status quo of we don't like you, you don't like me, but we can coexist. Now it seems that might no longer be true. With Iraq expelling us, we're losing friends because we're taking actions against so-called enemies. Now, Iran's regime it's atrocious. It's terrible. The guy Soleimani is not a good person by any means. He's been accused of war crimes. He leads proxies like Hamas and Hezbollah that have done atrocious actions. However, he was still a major player in a foreign nation's government. And that strike against him will not be forgotten by Iran anytime soon. And we might possibly, have another war added to our list of Afghanistan and Iraq and fighting in Nigeria and fighting in Syria. Just a possible another failed state in the Middle East has been created due to, well, honestly, why? I can't even answer that question that I've just posed because there doesn't seem to be a real reason why. There hasn't been Soleimani did XYZ, it's the Trump administration that said that there was a possible terrorist strike, a possible attack. So, and this strike prevented that said attack. It seems we're kind of grasping at straws here. It seems like we needed an excuse for an action. And like I said earlier, this guy, Soleimani, is not a good person. He is not like. But still a leader of a foreign nation. And this strike will not be forgotten for sure. Especially when you have tens of thousands of people coming up to his funeral out in the streets, and you have the Ayatollah making bombastic speeches saying that, we will rain fire and fury upon the United States. I'm troubled by this. I'm severely troubled by this. That another war could have been started because of an oversight, a miscalculation, saying that Iran will back down from us because we showed our strength with the drone that killed somebody. I don't know. I'm concerned. I don't see this going in any good direction. The best case scenario is Iran backs down, and then they would feel threatened for the rest of the Trump administration at least. We've lost the Iran nuclear deal before Iran was at least adhering to the deal despite the United States' withdrawal, more or less. Now the United States has now been outcast by the international community, like Russia, China, UK, Germany, who was a part of that deal. We have now been outcast, has been seen as the cripplers of that deal. It's a mess. This is a mess, and this is just extremely concerning.
Yeah, and with people like chanting "Death to America" and the U.S. embassy in Baghdad being stormed on the 31st of December, you had not only was it the Iranians, but you had the Iraqis also unhappy with, even before the strike happened, of how the U.S. dealt with Iran, and they don't. The people in the region don't want to have another war. They had the Iraq War. They had the war in Afghanistan. You still have a war going on in Syria. You had like just before that, you had the Arab Spring, where they had their own conflicts, and with the protests happening throughout that area about how they didn't like what was going on in their government, I don't see why the US wanted to provoke those people with so much anger that could now easily be directed towards the foreign US power that is trying to impose itself on us militarily. Why didn't the US just support the people who are doing the protests? And that would have caused regime change. Like, it would have, if you wanted regime change, that would be a better way to do it, because you don't have the backlash of, look, we're getting invaded, or having a fear campaign by the government being portrayed there. So there were steps being taken forward by the people there already, and this just pushed them in a wrong direction, and it's very, very disappointing. Like, because things were looking better, because there was a de-escalation after things that happened in the summer. Iran didn't take any more oil tankers. You had more of like an openness, but now it's just nope, we're back again to scaremongering.
Right. And since then, the U.S. has no formal diplomatic ties with Iran, which is a problem in and of itself when instances like these happen and we can't even communicate directly. We've been back channeling through the Swiss. Ever since then, there were reports of Swiss diplomats being in the Iranian parliament for just hours trying to communicate the U.S.'s point of view on what was going on. But what concerns me really is another war. And now, of course, there have been memes on the internet saying, "Oh, World War III, I'm going to get drafted." All that. No, that's not going to happen. The draft won't come back. But a lot of U.S. soldiers are now who are finishing up deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan and have already probably been through multiple combat tours in those countries, are now being redeployed for a possible another conflict in another foreign nation, another Middle Eastern country, where we don't necessarily have clear goals. Now, sure, Iran has lots of oil. They are definitely a major player on the world stage in that instance. But the United States has become energy independent under the Trump administration. We've made a huge effort to try to rid ourselves of foreign oil, our dependency on foreign oil. And now it seems like we're going in for another Iraq. We're going after oil again. It seems like with Iraq, we went in 2003 because they had, quote, WMDs. They had weapons of mass destruction they were going to use against the United States. This can't stand. We need to remove them. Okay. The U.S. population, the American people bought it. We went in, oh, sorry, our intelligence was wrong. Everyone was wrong. The Germans, the French, the British, the American, all intelligence was wrong. No WMDs. And we've been in Iraq ever since. Now the excuse for killing Soleimani was a attack is imminent against the United States. As far as I've seen, I haven't seen much evidence to support that theory other than official statements from the Department of Defense and the White House. It could be interpreted as just another excuse to go to war. There's been theories around that effort to distract from the impeachment inquiry, which is the House has voted President Trump has been impeached. Now we're just waiting on Pelosi to deliver the articles. Is this a distraction from that? Is this a distraction from the Trump administration's slipping poll numbers? Is this a distraction from the Boeing crisis? There's just been the timing of this is questionable for sure. And the circumstances behind the death are suspect. Not much evidence about it. Disturbing and a very fragile balance in the Middle East. I don't understand. I don't understand because to be honest, it seems like this came out of left field. There wasn't if this would have happened over the summer, after the oil tankers, this would have made more sense. This seems like we've been playing this for a while. We're like, all right, we finally got him. We got the bad guy. Now that Iran will back down and they'll crumble and they'll be a democracy again. That's just not realistic. Imagine if Iran had done this to our government. We wouldn't just back down. We would, of course, respond. And that's what was not thought of when this happened. And this concerns me. I'm just truly frightened on what we have, this can of worms we've opened, where this will lead us.
Yeah, no, it's a horrific state of events because you have so much hope, so much potential, just put down the drain. And yeah, you've got people both in Congress and the Senate supporting bills that would stop on both sides of on both parties requiring supporting that the president is required to tell Congress whatever military action he needs to be doing. And at this point, he's using the law that I can't remember the exact name.
War Powers Act.
But War Powers Act. Yes, that's what it is. The War Powers Act. That was meant to be used only against Al Qaeda. And firstly, he isn't. Soleimani was never a member of Al Qaeda. This is even a different sect of Islam. So there is no legal basis for Trump to even use his powers, and you have people coming out and saying that it's illegal for him to conduct anything without telling Congress that he was going to do this. Nobody was informed. He just did it because he just decided to do so. There's a rumor that says that Trump was at Mar-a-Lago and he had his advisors come and propose a few different versions of retaliation against the contractor that was killed a few weeks ago. And apparently there were a few different options that were laid in front of Trump. And then there's one extreme option, which was killing Soleimani, which was proposed to him as well, just to try and make sure, to give it a balance and to make the other options look reasonable. But no, he just chooses the extreme option. He just goes balls to the wall, just do whatever, don't care, just go as hard as you can. And this kind of a I don't care what everyone thinks about it, I'm going to do whatever I want sort of stance is just not. It's just
Yeah, it's not what you need to be the chief diplomat of the United States when these situations are very delicate. You can't pull that kind of attitude when dealing with a country that wants to develop nuclear weapons and wants to erase Israel off the face of the earth, which they have publicly stated, who's one of your main allies. You can't. That kind of ideology does not work when the other side is willing to follow it as well. It's you fighting fire with fire, and as anyone knows, that does not work. The fire will of course burn and grow. I agree. I think that negotiating style is quite poor, and especially negotiating with the name Q Reaper is also a poor idea. When you start flattening foreign leaders with Tomahawk missiles.
yeah. You had Iran, or people saying and reporting that there has been an $80 million bounty put on Donald Trump's head uh, by by but that's like you it's
Take that with a
become
grain
more
of
of a
take that with a
person.
grain of salt. But that just shows that whether that's true or not, it's true or not. Whether it's true or not, Iran will not back down from a threat to their sovereignty. They feel attacked, as they should. We did attack them, but like I said earlier, the morality of the strike is iffy because Soleimani was not a good guy. He's a war criminal. You know, Iran bad regime, etc., etc. But the U.S. is not innocent either. We've waged war across the world for decades, pursuing, oh, they're communists or they have weapons of mass destruction, in air quotes. We're not innocent in this either, which I think is something that many U.S. politicians and U.S. citizens have failed to realize, is that we're not now. I think this is the greatest country on earth. I think our government system is the best on earth. However, we are not necessarily always the good guys. Are there even good guys in a war like this? I think not. But we're not necessarily we're before the podcast started. Alex and I were talking. He said that if we go into Iran, we will not be seen as liberators. We will be seen as occupiers, which I think is 1,000% true. Just like we went into Afghanistan, we've been seen like that. We went into Vietnam, we've been seen like that. Iraq has now shown we've been seen like that when they voted to expel us through their parliament that the United States created following the downfall of Saddam Hussein. A institution that the United States inspired, created, helped form has now kicked us out. We have a bad track record with doing this kind of thing, especially in the last 30, 40 years. With another Middle Eastern country going to war with us, possibly because of a arrogant move, because the United States has claimed that we are the good guys, is a troubling precedent that we've continued to follow. And another fact that's been reestablished in this decade is concerning, especially with a strong especially since President Trump will be up for re-election and has a good chance of winning. So, Alex, anything else to add
Well, not really, but
to this
one
depressing
last.
narrative of us being at war again?
Well, so the only thing I wanted to add is that I just see this as more of a personal battle um, between Trump and the leader of Iran. You had the leader of Iran come out a few months ago saying that the death to America chance means not the death to America as a country or the death to the American people, it's death to the people who run the country, be it your Mike Pompeo's, your Donald Trump's, and your John Bolton's. And if it is a personal conflict between the leaders, it's not something that should be fought out on an international stage with a war. It should be dealt with like just deal with it. Grow up. Like
Yeah,
you're a
negotiate. Your
lead.
politicians negotiate.
Exactly. You're supposed to like protect the people that you are leading, and I feel like this is something. Um, this is just something. I don't feel like I don't feel like Trump is pushing forward, um, and like you have millions of people, you have millions of people in Iran, and you've got millions of people in the United States that both don't want to see war. And I feel like we should leave this, if I finish this podcast on a note of war isn't good. Nobody wants war. And there's only the only people that do are have either got an incredible money interest in it or have got some
Severe things
other
wrong with them. Yeah.
some severe things wrong with them. With it's just you'd never want to do that. And we we think that it's not going to happen, and we hope that it doesn't. And I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode of politics with me and Bo. And I hope you have a great 2020. It's
Happy
not
New
a great
Year.
way to start.
Happy New Year.
It's
We've
Happy
already
New Year.
started with possible global
It's not a
conflict.
great way. Yeah, it's not a great way to start it, and it is very disappointing. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and wish you all the best. Bye bye.